What's the most important thing when sell your property?
Hi, Taylor.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I have a buyer. Our job as brokers is professional marketers and professional negotiators.
She'd like to move quickly.
What are the terms? Do they need a loan?
No.
You would feel silly not using the technology that we've built and the network and the robustness of this system. You're losing out on opportunities. I have a couple offers that were encounters we're getting back to people, so.
They want to make an offer.
Welcome to No Vacancy, where I share conversations with LA's top multifamily owners, investors, and visionaries. I'm your host, Taylor Avakian, the founder of the Group CRE, and I specialize in the sale of apartment buildings in Los Angeles. On this show, we cut straight to what matters, market insights and real-world strategies straight from LA's multifamily icons to help you navigate one of the most complex real estate markets in the world, Southern California. Enjoy.
Welcome to the podcast. We're back for another solo episode, and was not expecting this first episode of the year, but when I got the bug, I got sick last week, the week before Christmas, I basically got that thing that was going around to everyone. And my two episodes that I was recording with a developer and another large owner who has some properties out in Georgia, and we're still going to have those conversations. I'm excited to share those with you. But anyways, those plans got changed. And so today we are going to be diving into my process. I figured what would be interesting for the listeners to want to hear about. What came to mind, and which I know a lot about because I spent a ton of time focusing on it this past year, is how we actually sell a building. Once an owner gives us a listing, what does the internal team process look like for me to go and actually sell a building like this? I'm going to walk you guys through exactly how to sell a building better than anyone else, because literally this is what my value proposition is, besides being, likable and cute and things like that. Joking aside, very excited to get tactical here. If you have no interest in listening to how a broker goes and sells a property, probably isn't the episode for you. However, if you are interested in understanding exactly what the process looks like, step by step, how our team, different operations, sales, things like that, come together to make a building, a beautiful building, be sold, then this is the episode for you. Actually, let's just jump right into it. I'm going to be looking at my computer screen too, because we have all of this documented on an SOP, which I highly recommend. If you do a process, or if you have a business and you don't document exactly how you're supposed to be doing it and who is supposed to be doing what, then you're just having to do that every single time. And I've learned and I've read and from experience to make sure you document these processes. They're very, very important. First step. Okay. An owner decides, hey, Taylor, I want you guys to go and sell my property. Huzzah. Amazing. Okay. Now what happens? Pre-launch, week 0. This is what happens immediately after a listing agreement gets signed. The trigger is in our system. We use something called HubSpot, which is my central CRM. We have a trigger where once the listing agreement is signed, we have a task split in between sales and operations. I am sales, my team is operations, and we have 3 people helping me out with there. We're sending them a client onboarding email immediately, right? And we have a template based upon the conversations and the conversations that I had immediately thereafter, but this goes and gets tracked directly in my CRM, my HubSpot CRM. And this is make sure that we can know and track each and every step along the whole listing process so that there's no questions who needs to give what information, what next steps are, things like that. So that's the first process. Updating the goals with selling the property. We're obviously mapping that back to the client's goals, their timeline, things like that. We're going to be looking at scheduling an initial strategy call. And this strategy call is where we talk about a little bit of timing, what are the levers that we're going to need to pull when we're listing it? Are they more concerned with the pricing? Are they more concerned with the timing? Things like that. That's where this initial strategy call comes into play. And this happens immediately, gets scheduled right after the listing agreement is signed. Then what happens is there's a follow-up task that I am supposed to send an email basically breaking down the initial documentation, the due diligence information that is required from the seller to provide to us, in turn providing it to the buyers. So we can have this quote unquote war room, right? This chest of things like the rent roll, the profit and loss expenses, if we haven't already had it, the utility bills, all the things that a bank is going to need to underwrite a deal and a buyer is going to need to underwrite a deal. And the sooner that we can get this information, the quicker we can actually make things happen, because as everyone knows, time kills deals. And if I can send a huge, beautiful DD documentation, fully baked out with all the information that anyone's going to need, that allows us to move quicker and actually getting one of these deals sold for our clients that hire us to do so. We're going to be changing that. And then at HubSpot, I'm obviously moving the deal around, changing the stages, which we have pipeline trackers and staging trackers within our CRM so that nothing slips through the cracks. Because as anyone knows who's sold anything or has a process of anything, you're working with clients, yourself, things tend to slip through the cracks if they're not written down and organized as to what next steps are going to be. Again, setting that email, perfect. My ops team is creating a folder in the Google Drive, which is what we use for organization simultaneously. We're basically we have folders called deals, and we have a template for the property address. And there's subset folders within that are going to basically be like contracts and documentation, due diligence information. We're going to be adding the owner as a contributor to that so they can directly upload all the documents into that. And this is all outlined in that initial email, right? So they can always save that or start that email, go back to it. Here's the link if you need to upload stuff. Here's your checklist of items that you need to upload so you can see them in real time. And we don't have to have this back and forth communication. Then the marketing prep gets started. We schedule site photography for our vendors. We have a shot guide for the photographers, because even though we use similar photographers and they know what we like, sometimes depending on the asset itself, we have an idea of what's going to show the best or what's actually going to give the buyer the best picture of what they're buying. What does that currently look like? And how do we make the property look as enticing and whatever type of investment it is to those people who are actually in the market looking to buy? We send them the shot list. We share with them the subfolder for photos so they can directly upload those photos into the drive as well. And then if any owners have some photos from interior listings or things like that, those get uploaded as well. So they all have access to that. The operations team is then going to be doing step 1A of the process, which is the data processing. Let's take a step back here. What's the most important thing when you're hiring a broker to go and sell your property? Their ability to get the property in front of as many people as possible. Literally, our job as brokers is professional marketers and professional negotiators. And so the first process in that is marketing. And so how do we go and market this asset to as many people as possible? Because most brokers that you hire, good brokers, decent brokers, are going to have access to CoStar, LoopNet, Crexi. They're going to put them on all of these third-party websites. Like, that's a given, right? But what about the direct outreach, the phone calls, the texts, the emails? And we'll dive into a little bit more of that in the process of how we do that a little bit differently than other people, I would assume. But first, we got to find out and get the contact information for those people so we can do the outreach. What that looks like is I have people on my team who go and initially go on CoStar. And so what they're going to do on CoStar is they're going to go and put the property address in, and they're going to pull a radius. And so what a radius is like, a zero, the property address is in the center, and then we go out a half mile or a mile or a mile and a half or 2 miles, depending on where the property is. And we're going to pull all the owners who own property in that neighborhood. And you can export that list. That exported list is likely going to be not very good data, right? The contact information may or may not be good. Let's say it's 50% accurate. They're going to be tough pulling email addresses with the way that CoStar exports it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that list and then we're going to cross-reference it with our current database, which is in HubSpot. We already have a ton of people in that database and we have confirmed information. And so we're going to pull and see, okay, we're matching these people. Whose information do we have? Whose information do we not have? After that process is done, we're going to then take the information of the people we don't have and go run that through another third-party processor who's going to then go and try to skip trace that data. And my team at the same time, we're doing the processes of trying to find contact information for people on a manual route. And then we're going to go and use a third party that has aggregated a bunch of data as well. The goal is to have a complete contact information, 100% accurate contact information of every owner who owns nearby this property. Because as many people know, a lot of times the people who are the best buyers are the ones who own nearby. And it's because they want to build this almost monopoly of real estate. And also it shows you that they're willing to own in that neighborhood, right? If there's a big player who owns nearby, they're very active. They're likely someone who's familiar with the neighborhood. They understand the rents. Maybe they want to add another one in that neighborhood because they're comfortable and they understand it. So we're going to take all of that information and we're going to basically rank order that in terms of who we think is going to be the likely buyer. And we're going to make sure all that contact information is there. Now, here's what we're going to do, which kind of kicks off everything from that week one, day one marketing. In our CRM and HubSpot, we have different workflows and sequences. Once we've identified who the top people are who are likely going to be the buyers or potential buyers for this property, we're going to enroll them in a workflow. And what those workflows look like are these almost mind maps of if-then statements. So it looks like drop down here, and there's a bunch of branches on this. And each different person, because we segment each individual person, depending on who we think is going to be, a player, mom and pop, who hasn't bought anything recently, who's in a 1031 exchange, all of these people are going to have different messaging that we're going to be sharing with them and different methods and tasks for me to do to make sure that they see these assets. So for example, I'm looking at one that we have for a property on 2300 Bellevue. This is a listing that we have. And let me see if I can show you this screen really quick. All right. So if you're listening to this and not watching, go check it out on YouTube. You'll see this. This is the breakdown of what one of these processes is going to look like for a listing that we have, 2300 Bellevue. If I zoom in here, you can see that we put these different people in different groups. And again, this is part of the segmentation because as you know, as an investor, an owner, someone like that, maybe you want to buy a certain type of asset and maybe it's deal metrics level or location deal metrics level or there's different criteria, buy boxes that you have. I don't want to send you a deal in South Los Angeles if you're not interested in South LA, or I don't want to send you a 2 cap if you only buy 6 caps or a price per unit of 250 when I know you only buy things below $200,000. So first off, we're going to segment these lists. I do at the same time though, I want you to see it because you never know. There's different delays that we have in the process. All right. So I'm branching out here. As you can see, there's a branch. If they're currently enrolled in a sequence for other listings, then I want to make sure they get those certain things. They're not overwhelmed by us. And then it breaks down into all these things in a sequence, not in a sequence. There's a delay until a certain sequence is finished, which I'll dive into sequences really quickly and show you what that looks like. And then we're going to branch it out. And then if they respond, great. If they don't, then there's another sequence that happens after that. And all of these sequences are something that we've really baked out and have spent a ton of time researching and figuring out what does this look like? What does this process actually make sense? So let me show you example of one of these sequences, which again is used in HubSpot. And these sequences are basically outreaches via email. And this is a very simple one. This is vicinity targets for Bellevue, right? And so we have A/B testing in terms of language because I want to know what gets the most opens, what gets the most clicks, what are the subject lines that work, and what kind of format is the most important. Is it a bunch of text? Is it just a little one? Is there a link in the beginning one? Is there not a link in there? Is it a call to action? All those things that we're testing on a continual basis to make sure what is going to be the most optimal result for our clients. What is going to give us the best chance to sell their deal. So we have these sequences where if someone responds, they get cut out of the sequence. If they don't respond, they get a follow-up. If they don't respond after that, they get another follow-up. And all of these things are basically so that nothing slips through the cracks. You would be so surprised at how many buyers I've found from a third email in a sequence. Send them an initial email. Hey, we just listed this property. Great. No response. Send them another follow-up email. No response. Send them the third email and they're like, wow, this is a great deal. Let me take a look at that. When that first happened for me, that was a moment where I was like, wow, this is super important. People get so many emails. They're so inundated with deals that it's natural to miss when an opportunity like this comes at their doorstep. Like, it's my job to make sure that everyone sees these deals. what I didn't show you in that sequence, and we have more that are built out, is there's different people on my team who's responsible for different steps. Let's say someone gets an email, they open it, but they don't respond. Okay, that triggers a task for me to call them, which is automatically created, and say, hey, I saw you took a look at the deal. Any questions? Do you have any interest in that? This is a manual task that's created automatically depending on what they do in the sequence for me to make sure that they are interested, or maybe the information wasn't portrayed in a way that they understood, or they thought it was something else, but it's actually this. And I think it is a good deal for them because of what they've discussed or we've talked in the past. We get very detailed with that. Sometimes it's even where I got to go on LinkedIn and, check out these people and connect with them there. Or if they posted something on there, there's all these intricate sequences and steps that go through these processes of making sure that the right people see these listings and they're aware of this. And a lot of times it might not be the right fit for them, but I also want to take that information and then upload that into their profile so that I know next time, okay, what kind of property is going to be the best for them, so that if I have something that fits that, I can use the automatic system, to then filter and find them, because there's so many people who are willing to buy, but I can't remember everyone. I can't remember everyone's specific buy box. The process of me taking the feedback that they've given me from the previous listings and almost creating this whole matrix of what fits for them, that allows me to be even more segmented and tailored and build more of a deep relationship. And again, this is a working process. This isn't perfect. With AI, this is going to become even more incredible throughout the process. And I'm very excited for when we can make all these things work and fit together. But at this point in time, a lot of this is manual, but it's been great. And we're very excited about that kind of process that we're building out. And this is the future of brokerage, and this is the future of marketing. And if you're working with a broker who doesn't have these steps, they can still sell your building, because depending on what a building's priced, it's going to make a ton of sense. However, we want to make sure that we're not just doing the basics. We're going above and beyond to say, hey, we're not just like everyone else. We're different in the way that we work and sell and the process that we have, and it's going to produce a better result for you. Like that's the way that I think about how do I want to be perceived in the market. We did that. We did the sales and marketing. We uploaded the CSV. Great. Now, week one, we're going to be putting all these properties on all the third parties: CoStar, LoopNet, Crexy. I have a team who is tasked, while I'm making these phone calls and actually selling these deals, they're going and uploading this data, making sure we're writing good copy for the property, making sure that all the information looks good. The OM link is there. They're going to go put it on my website too. We got to go make a brand new listing on the website, thegroupcre.com, where we can funnel people to, and you can request the offering memorandum there, which then also kicks off another sequence for us to be able to track these people and which ones they request, which OMs they like, things like that. The VA and our team is kind of cleaning up, organizing, making sure that the property is everywhere it needs to be. There's things like buyer deal match. So this is part of the segmentation list that I went into further, where we have something in the system that basically has a bunch of these filtered criteria. And this is something that I'm trying to get more buyers to fill out. It's basically like a form where they can go into very detailed of what their buy box is, because this allows me to actually send them deals not only on market, but off market as well that fit that criteria. But as you know, it's very hard to get an investor to spend 5 minutes filling out a form. If you want to be included on the next list, if you like what you're hearing and seeing thus far, please reach out to me, or please fill out the buyer form. It's in my email. And I'll make sure that you get deals that are specifically targeted to exactly what you want, because that one's much more in depth than me basing it off of the criteria that I'm assuming, either historical or local or things like that. So we're going to do that deal buyer match criteria, things like that. I'm going to personally have a call list of people that we think are the highest probability of having interest in this. And I'm going to call them and pitch them a deal directly, because the phone is still powerful. The phone is still that place where deals get done. And if you're just waiting for someone to call you and say they're interested in a listing, you're really doing a disservice to yourself, not only in marketing yourself as, hey, I got a listing. It's a very easy call to make, but also too, a lot of these people are busy and sometimes they miss emails. Like I said, even if I send 3 follow-up emails, they might not see it, but they're definitely going to hear about it when I call them on the phone. It's making sure that, again, all these processes, there's nothing that slips through the cracks. We're also going simultaneously, again, we're creating social content around this. So putting it on LinkedIn, putting it on Twitter, where we have a big following and where we've found buyers in the past. We're going to figure out if postcards make sense for something like this. We're going to figure out if there's a media article or something that we can do to then market this asset even further. Where are the buyers for these specific assets? Is this going to be a Beverly Hills buyer where I might even put it in the Beverly Hills Weekly newsletter or newspaper, excuse me? Or is this going to be going on in a magazine for a specific buyer type because it's a luxury property and those buyers are sometimes reading these luxury properties? Is this going to go on Crexy, LoopNet? Am I going to send direct emails through those platforms? Or am I just going to pull previous buyers that we've tracked in those platforms and send them the OM link directly through that or from my email? These are a bunch of different things that we do. And so we're strategically crafting, okay, who is the buyer profile? And a lot of this is done pre-pitch, pre-listing, right? Because I want to come to the meeting and say, hey, here's all the pre-work that we've done. Here's all the buyers that we think are going to be a good fit. Here's why. And having all that data on the front end not only makes the pitch stronger, but actually helps us when we do market this stuff and can immediately go and execute on that. Something that we've started to do the later half of the year is including the emails and the calls, we do text messages. And I know this can be, poo-pooed, or some people don't like getting text for these things. I only send it to people who've basically reached out to me and said that they'd be willing to receive text messages for deals. We have stuff that we can trigger on that and make sure people are okay with it. But a lot of times, sometimes you want to get an immediate notification like, hey, we just listed this 16 unit property. Here's the details. Here's the link if you want to click the OM, or let me know and I'll send you an email with the link, or I'll text you the link to the OM. So that's another tool that we've recently started using, and I've had good feedback in being able to use that. I'm very excited about where that's going to be going, and all the language and everything from the copy, all that stuff is kind of pre-templated, but we can adjust it based upon, again, the level of relationship that I have with someone and the level of segmentation that I have with someone. Is this someone I've never spoken to before in my life, or is this someone who I'm really close with? And, there's a little bit less, you can be a little more casual, a little less professional from that perspective. All this stuff is in the process, and we have this all documented on basically an SOP, which is a Word doc and Google Doc. No matter who is working on it and whatever process it is in the stage, they know, okay, what are my next action steps? What do I have to do to make sure that we're successful and going and selling an asset that we've been hired to do? And again, a bunch of follow-ups. This happens week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. Every Friday, we send an update to the owners of the listings with basically who we've called, who we've emailed, who we've outreached to, the feedback thus far, and all this gets aggregated into our CRM. And we have a template basically where we can export that and upload it so that very quickly we can have a nice, pretty, PDF version of what the marketing looks like. You have something visual to look at it. Sometimes if the owner prefers to have email, I'll send it out in an email template, just text. Sometimes people like to be visual and know that you're working hard. And so we're going to put that in a beautiful package to show them, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's the feedback that we're getting. Here's the buyers that we toured. Here's the offers that we had. Here's how many people we followed up with. Here's next steps. Here's what we're going to be doing the following week. And this whole process is something that we're obviously continuing to iterate and improve. And I love learning of different ways to market. And I actually take a lot of this stuff from residential real estate agents because I think they are a little bit better at marketing than, I would say, commercial real estate agents. But we're constantly trying to iterate and get this better. And with AI and voicemails and all this stuff, like, it's only going to become more robust to make sure that anyone possible who could potentially buy this deal is going to see this deal. They are not going to not hear about this from me when you hire me to go and list and sell a property. And this also helps from an off-market deal perspective because the more data that we have, the more processes that we have, it's easier for me to find the right person who is going to actually be the person who is the right fit for a deal. Because as many of you know, these things change. Your goals change. Sometimes you sell a property and you're in a 1031 exchange and like that's not publicly tracked. All of the information that I get from when I'm speaking to these owners on the phones, which weekly I'm making around 200 to 250 calls to a lot of these owners, speaking to about, 100 to 120 owners a week is the goal for me. And that's been pretty consistent with, the data that we've had, which is pretty robust thus far. But I actually have people on my team who call and reach out and sell the deals too. So like, you're not just getting me calling and selling these deals, but you're getting other people who are calling and reaching out and saying, hey, we have this new listing. It's near your property. Are you interested? And they can directly send that OM to that person. So it basically multiplies me by, 10x so that I can make sure, again, the whole process is how can I get as many people to see this property who are the right people to see this so that they can make a decision. Yes, I'm interested or no, I'm not. And we're going to take all that information and we're going to tag it to them and make sure that the next time and the next time. What's cool about the process and what's cool about the system is the more listings, the more feedback, the more outreach that we do, the stronger, the smarter, the more robust the system is going to be, where eventually like I'm going to be able to have a score of 95% likelihood that this person's going to buy based upon 150 factors or 1,000 factors. When I created this, I almost wanted it to be like Cambridge Analytica style in terms of like so much data on buyer and investor behavior that you'd be silly not listing with us. That's the goal, is that you would feel silly not using the technology that we've built and the network and the robustness of this system, that like you're losing out on opportunities by not working with us. That's the goal when I'm crafting and iterating and growing this listing system, because it is so important when you're thinking about how can you differentiate yourself from the sea of other investors or brokers who've been in the game for such a long time or longer than you, or they have better name recognition. Like, what are you going to do to set yourself apart? And part of it for us is big at building out this actual listing system to get the data, to make the building look beautiful, have the OM be stunning and really portray the property, to the outreach, to the follow-up, to the organization of the insights, the buyers, the sellers. I'm tracking all of that across the whole process so that there's nothing that we feel is not being taken care of. Very excited to continue to grow this in 2025. There's a ton of new things that we're going to be trying to implement. And if you have any feedback or thoughts, I would love to hear that. I'm always looking to improve the process. But that's the process. And that's how you sell buildings faster for more money than everyone else. And moving forward, we're going to be bringing on some more agents as well to help with the process of selling these things and improving the socials. I'd like to get videos going too. I know a lot of residential agents do these videos of the drone videos and the property tours and the insights. I actually think there's a place for that in commercial. And because there's never too many places that you can market an asset. There really is not. And, but what is also unique about this, and I'll dive into this just briefly, is that some owners want a level of anonymity, and they almost want, if you go in the institutional space, you'll know that most of these properties that are listed in the institutional properties, they're not marketed like externally, they're marketed internally. And these email addresses and because there's only maybe 200 buyers for a $200 million property or $250 million property in a certain area. So you don't necessarily have to go out to everyone. I don't know if that's necessarily the right way to do it, but that's the way that these institutional players do it. And sometimes we have clients who want to do a similar process. And so we've set up similar processes for this kind of, not underground, I could say, but this more low-key marketing process. And so we have set that up as well. So I try to make sure that whatever the goals are of the investor, we have a system, a workflow, a process that fits what they're looking to do. What's also great about the process, and we're building this out and making this robust as well, is what happens once you get into negotiations and you're looking to do a 1031 exchange. We've outlined a system that throughout the process, even from day one, if they want to get started, but definitely when we go under contract on the process of what does that 1031 exchange process look like, from identifying buildings to outreaching to sending LOIs to making that streamlined as possible, so that ideally, when we close escrow on their down leg, we're already under contract or we're closing on the up leg as well. This whole process, again, it's a ton, but when you set it up in the beginning the right way and constantly iterate step by step by step to make little changes here and there, you get this system that not only works for our clients, but also like other brokers want to be able to plug into that system too. My goal with building out these processes and creating this marketing machine is that, again, you would feel silly not working with us because of the ability and the systems and the processes that we've been able to build out and just do and sell things better than anyone else. I want to talk a little bit about what is in the future of marketing and what I think it means for brokers and for myself and how I'm looking at that. Because with a lot of this AI stuff, brokerage is an older business, right? I would say it's definitely more on the legacy types of processes, just because most of the people are older and you're not trying to tie into technology as much and maybe aren't on social media as much and leveraging the platforms of today. You're leveraging the platforms of tomorrow. My goal and what I envision is being able to leverage the processes of yesterday, of the past, because why not, but also bring it in the future. And what that looks like from, I think, future from a marketing perspective is a lot of these AI agents. And again, if you're not familiar with this, there are basically these AI, it's in the very early stages, but there's basically these AI agents, beings, however you want to call them, that you can set up almost like if-then statements. And they use this artificial intelligence, this large language model, to basically do a lot of what a broker does, but from an AI agent. And you can do that at scale too. And then you can track individual people too. And it only gets smarter, because imagine I track John Smith and he's an investor in Koreatown, but he also has looked and written offers on properties in Echo Park, Silver Lake, the Valley, South Bay, right? I talked to him recently on a phone call, and in that transcript it says, hey, I'm looking for a 5.5% cap rate deal. I want to buy it at $225 a door. I want at least 30% upside in the rents, and I want at least 15% of the units vacant. Okay, great. That gets tied to John Smith's AI agent, right? His profile, but also the AI agent has access to all that information. The AI agent is constantly looking and searching for properties that fit that criteria. So if anything pops up, or if we are on a phone call with an owner and they've identified that they want to sell it, that gets put in the system. The AI agent gets, then that triggers the AI agent to be notified that, oh, this building fits John Smith's criteria. So he's going to do the whole process that we said, or the AI agent's going to do the whole process that we said, but automatically. And they're going to personalize it based upon the conversations and the data that we have for John Smith. And they're going to know that John Smith is on LinkedIn at 12 to 2 p.m. And he posts recently here. And maybe we're going to send and reach out on LinkedIn for a DM, or we're going to reach out on his cell phone because we know that he answers, calls or text messages from 1 to 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So like you can imagine the level of detail that is going to be happening, and just the level of knowledge and specificity. And really what it is that hyper segmentation of getting a property in front of someone at the best possible time, and even changing the copy or changing the metrics on the subject line based upon what John likes. If John's a cap rate buyer, then I'm going to highlight the cap rate in the subject line because that's what he cares about. Or if he's a price per pound buyer, I'm going to highlight the price per pound that is automatically going to be created based upon John's communication style or preferences. Communication style is another one. Let's say John's very direct and he likes direct language. We're going to tailor the email to be direct to John. The AI agent's going to know that he likes direct bullet points, right? And it's going to format the outreach to be exactly how he prefers to be reached out to. Now, if there's a Jane Smith who prefers more of a description and kind of the neighborhood and the up and comingness of it, and new developments that are happening nearby, or the coffee shops that are on the corner, because she really feels like that's important to tenants, I'm going to have it in the system, and we're going to be able to tailor that outreach message or the message of us selling these listings to fit that criteria. I'm very excited about AI agents from that perspective, and it doesn't necessarily have to be agents, but even a lot of these systems for CoStar and Crexian, they're going to have so much robust data on investors and individuals and what you want, that you're going to see everything you want and nothing that you don't. And that's going to be very, very exciting, and in the format of what fits for you, how you want to perceive the data. What data do you want? What metrics do you care about? We're a bit a ways away from actually making that a reality, from being a full up and fledging system. But that's what is going to happen. And that's what I'm keeping my finger on the pulse for, of, okay, what systems can we plug into the already robust system that we're building out that is going to improve that process and make that even stronger than it is. So with all that being said, that's a little bit about our marketing process. That's how you go and sell buildings. I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you want me to walk through other parts and processes that we have, from cold call to, social media, all that stuff, let me know. I love this. I love marketing. I love getting in the weeds of how to improve ancient processes and make them better and better. It's going to be really fun. I appreciate you guys listening. Come back for the next episode. Here's to many more conversations. One episode down in 2025. So I'll see you in the next one.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you enjoyed the podcast, it would mean the world to me if you could rate us 5 stars on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. It really helps us get our name out there and helps us get fantastic people like our guests to share their insights and knowledge with you. Again, my name is Taylor Avakian. I specialize in the sale of apartment buildings in Los Angeles and Southern California, and I look forward to sharing more of these conversations with you. See you in the next one.